Good Baltimore morning, everyone. My name is Kira Wisniewski, and I have the distinct pleasure of being your host and co-organizer of Creative Mornings Baltimore. We're so excited to be coming to you once again from Adorned Vintage Furniture on the ancestral land of the Piscataway people in Baltimore City. I am so glad that you could join us this morning, albeit virtually. But before we get started, I want to say out loud, as we do every time, Black lives continue to matter. Creative Mornings Baltimore is one of over 200 chapters from around the world, and the thing that unites us is that we all believe that everyone is creative and everyone is invited. We are one of dozens of global events happening today. We're happy to offer you ASL from our friends at HASA, supported by Eddie's of Roland Park. And so Eddie's of Roland Park has ready-to-grill gourmet burgers for Memorial Day weekend, made in-house with USDA choice ground beef. Have all your fixings, and Eddie's is open regular hours on Memorial Day, so you can go get all your cookout conveniences.
Yeah, good.
Woo! Also, we're dropping in the chat right now a link to read a live captioning of our program today through Otter AI. If we're going to be truly living up to our mantra of everyone is invited and everyone, we really need to start increasing our accessibility. The pandemic. You're over it, right? Yeah, us too. We're so grateful for you to be joining us this morning, whether it be through YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope on Twitter. I know it's really tempting right now to just answer a couple emails or even mindlessly scroll through Instagram, but I really want you to try, if you can, to just be here with us for the next 45 minutes, hour or so. Really, you deserve it. You deserve this time to be with us and not trying to multitask. So give yourself that permission to be here fully. And we know that this cannot replace that IRL experience, but we want to hear what you think of today's event. So please slide into those DMs, shoot us an email at baltimore@creativemornings.com. And go ahead and tag us with Baltimore_CM on your favorite social media platform. We'd love to see how this looks on your end and how you're joining us this morning. And of course, engage us in the chat. You can post your comments from YouTube on Facebook, and we can put them right here on the main screen. We have Anita and Arlene, wonderful Creative Mornings volunteers, joining us today. Anita is with you on YouTube, and Arlene is over on Facebook. Hey, y'all. Thank you for joining us. Each month, we like to ask someone special to us to read our manifesto. White Tea Co. has been a sustaining sponsor of our chapter since 2019. Siblings Brittany and Joseph never had much in common and hardly ever talked until they found tea and built their friendship around it. In 2016, the Baltimore-based duo founded White Tea Company, handcrafting adventurous tea blends like Sage Rose White Tea, Blueberry Basil, Robius, and Fireside Fig. Our Twitter yeah, it is delicious. Our Twitter volunteer, Eric Thomas, tweeted at an event in 2019, "Okay, I need you to smell this White Tea Co. tea. I know it's difficult on Twitter, but you really must try. It's important." And that was about that Fiddle Fig tea. And I wish I could hand you a cup of that tea right now, but you can catch them over at Whitehall Mill. Anywho, please welcome Brittany to read our Creative Mornings manifesto.
Yeah.
Good morning. Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections and learning from others in virtual hugs and digital high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome.
Thank you so much, Brittany. Creative Mornings is run on an engine of generosity, made possible by our volunteers and fueled by companies that believe in community, people and companies that give a damn. Creative Mornings Baltimore is 100% volunteer run, so shout out to today's dream team of Mario, Winston, Henley, Sean, Sabina, Anita, Arlene, and Lex joining us special today.
Yeah.
This is also where we have slides with the logos of our beloved partners, but we're going analog, And luckily I have some signs for you, courtesy of one of our sustaining partners right here, our Alpha Graphics. But first, of course, shout out to our Adorn Vintage Furnishing. Come by here tomorrow. They're open every Saturday at 10 a.m. and you can check out and purchase the things that we are sitting on right now. And then Alpha Graphics, of course, who printed all these signs, woman-owned business in Hamden, and handle all your printing needs. Of course, there's HASA, who's providing our ASL today. And Impact Hub Baltimore, they're starting to open back up again. Check them out. Local Color Flowers providing, I don't know if you can see it, but there's some beautiful flowers here, y'all. Every month, locally sourced flowers. Love them, love them, love them. Maryland Art Place, our fiscal sponsor. Pixelated Photo Booth, they're doing some really cool stuff in the digital age. Of course, White Tico. And shout out to Skillshare and MailChimp, our global sponsors. So we're dropping in the chat right now a link that links to all of our wonderful sustaining partners, as well as the folks we've been fortunate enough to work with since the reboot of our chapter. And if you can, we really encourage you to support them now more than ever. And if you can't monetarily support them, please consider writing a positive review or just even following them on any kind of social media, resharing any kind of stuff they've got going on. All that stuff is valuable to local small businesses. And yeah, again, shout out to our global sponsors who are sponsoring all 200 plus Creative Mornings chapters. So thanks again to MailChimp and Skillshare. Creative Mornings Dallas chose May's resilient theme, and Nikki Diane made the accompanying illustration. And now, why we've all gathered here this morning, let me introduce you to our featured guest. JaMar Jones is a film director, cinematographer, and West Baltimore native who began producing films as a means to contextualize his environment. He has created a local television show called Good News Baltimore and launched 6 Point Pictures, a film production company located in Southwest Baltimore. Over the years, JaMar has produced many short films, commercials, and documentaries for various local and international companies. Now JaMar focuses on original content and bringing talent back to the silver screen. Creative Mornings Baltimore, please help me welcome JaMar Jones to the virtually hybrid stage.
Resilience. The moment of silence was intentional because before I begin, I want to make sure that I honor and pay respect to everyone on this earth who looks like me. Because your continued existence and through history, your continued existence is proof that you are the definition of resilience. So I wanted to just set the foundation for the talk before I begin, so that way you can understand the importance of it and it ties into my story. So some of you know me, some of you don't, but to just let you know, I'm a father, I'm a filmmaker, and I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm originally from Baltimore, West Baltimore, specifically Zone 15, around the Park Heights and Wally area for anybody that's watching. And as an artist, film production can be extreme. It could be like a perfect storm of things happening and more stuff happening on top of stuff happening. And then it could be moments where there's absolutely nothing. And in those moments of nothing, you can go a little crazy because you're expected to do a bunch of things, but you should rest in those times. And it's been non-stop work since I was asked to do this. I don't know how long ago, but it's been non-stop. And then right before this, it was absolutely nothing. And I'm like, okay, I need to get to do something and just get back into it. And it's kind of like you're trying to tone down and relax a little bit. But in those moments of trying to relax, I had a little bit of procrastination. So, but shout out to Trey for the previous one for saying all those beautiful things about how procrastination is not such a bad thing. It's more so trying to figure out how to do those things that you need to do on your own pace. So I appreciate you, Trey, for that. Yeah. But being a resilient person that I am, I still happen to get this done and make it here. And when I was asked to come on, I was asked about defining resilience. Like, what does resilience mean to me? And the first thing I think of is I don't think of a definition or a set of actions. I think of people. I see faces and I remember moments. And I think about some of the most influential people that I've had in my life. Viola, June, and Sophronia. And that's my grandmother, my aunt, and my mother. That's the artist, the entrepreneur, and the galvanizer. So we're gonna take it back just a little bit. I'm gonna do a little history of my family so that way you can understand a little bit more. So we're gonna start with Viola. And I want you to sit with this. She was born in 1909. That's a long time ago. And she was born in North Carolina, and she was the daughter of a slave. Just think about that for a second, 1909. And it's the same for my grandfather, her husband, Charles, who was born in North Carolina and was the son of a slave. And it's crazy because we actually have a photo of his mother and father. It was this little skinny white man with a bulbous head, little cul-de-sac situation. And he, he had this, I don't know, it's like a grayish blue shirt. I don't know, the colors might have been changed over time or whatever. But they were in this field with tall grass, about like knee high. And it was this shack behind him. It was old, rundown wood. And in North Carolina, Viola, when she was born, she learned to sew, and then she became a tailor. And she took those skills and went to Virginia and bounced around in Virginia for a little bit, and then finally made her way to Baltimore with Charles, and that's where she finally settled. And my grandmother and grandfather ended up working in a cleaners, taking those skills that they have, and they were on cleaners on Gilmore Street, and they lived in the Gilmore homes. And I want to take a second to shout out all my aunts, the original Gilmore girls, my mother's friends. That's the real Gilmore girls from Gilmore homes. But Viola was an artist. Her grandmother made all kinds of things. She made ceramics, she made elephants. She made one of our little ceramic Christmas trees, and it had the little fiber optic where you could put the little plastic things in there. They sell them in like different stores now, but she actually knew how to make that stuff. She even made the Christmas ornaments that we still use to this day. A lot of them didn't survive the times because me and my brother, we was bad. But we used to play with those, and of course with the cats and whatnot, they destroy those things. But she made a lot of those things, and we still have some. She made them a long time ago. And she also made my Aunt June. And everything that is Viola was sewn into Aunt June. Aunt June used to make wedding dresses. She made dresses for everybody, and she helped to run any business my uncle got them into. She was a seamstress, and I remember being afraid of the mannequins, because when I go downstairs, I had to go to her house after school, latchkey kid style, right? So I go to her house after school, and I'm maybe like 6 or 7 or something like that, and the TV was this way when you went down the basement, but those mannequins were lurking in the dark, like right there. And I was trying to get to Aladdin and Chip and Dale and all that stuff. You know what I mean? They was coming on TV, so I had to get to that. So I had to overcome that fear. But those mannequins were down there, and I remember other things like her being a professor and a grad of Bowie State University, and she's also a Delta. And I remember moments being in her house where it was tons of papers on the table, and she didn't have the little green visor, but she was crunching numbers and doing all those things to run the business, because she knew how to run businesses. And because of that, her and her husband knew how money worked, and with that comes the perception of success. So they were the successful ones in the family. And last but not least is my mother, Sophronia. Mama! So, and this is crazy, talking about resilience. Aunt June was born 21 years before my mother. That's crazy, right? And Sophronia was one of the ones that knew how to collect people. She knew the value of people. She would never let good people go. You know, she would see great things in people. And my entire childhood is filled with memories of running around with my my little cousins, you know, play cousins and real cousins, and the table full of crabs and music's in the air, somebody's on the grill, you know, and they're talking about, you know, God knows what, because at that age, it was the saying of, you know, stay out of grown folks' business, right? Somebody was going to get it. So I had no idea what they was talking about, but everybody was having fun, you know, and it was a good time. So if you take the tenacious artist and the child of a slave, the business person and the hustler, and then you take the galvanizer and you mix all those things together and you get me. So because of that, I was an artist from the beginning and I didn't know it. And I was an entrepreneur from the beginning and I didn't know it. I was always drawing X-Men characters and anime and tagging buildings and shoveling snow for money, you know, because that was the way, that was the squeegee boy of the day, you know. And I was also running my own little business at like 6, 7, all the way through 10. And I had my only 2 friends from across the alley helping me out doing Olympia Sales Club. I don't know if anybody remembers Olympia Sales Club, but drop a line in the chat if you remember Olympia Sales Club. If you got like I got, then you remember Olympia Sales Club, you know. But we were selling all kinds of candy and Christmas cards and whatever to anybody in the neighborhood that would listen. But I took those skills. Fast forward a little bit, in '99, I found myself in music and I found myself as a DJ. And I took that all the way to college in 2003 at Morgan State University. And shout out to my brother Ak for giving me a chance and seeing that I had something, you know, and he let me into the radio station. And it was a good thing because I actually worked there for 11 years after that in radio. And that was part of part-time because I also worked part-time at Home Depot as a forklift driver. Right, because those things mix, right?
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, I knew I wasn't supposed to be there because I walked in Home Depot one day at 6 a.m. and they were yelling at people, and you know, we had all this kind of stuff to do, and that's back in the day when nobody's wearing masks, and I was working in lumber and building materials, and it's all kinds of dust everywhere, and they wouldn't give you any protection or whatever, and it's just like, I'm clocking in, looking at that sad vending machine with the cold sandwiches in there from White Castle, and I'm like, man, this is not where I'm supposed to be, and I'm clocking in, and I just finished clocking in and I walked out because it's just where I wasn't supposed to be, because I knew that I started film around this time, and I knew that I had something else that I could be doing that was more lucrative and worth my time. So I took that and I went to go pitch Aunt June, because remember, she was the one that was helping everybody else out. She's the entrepreneur. And I talked to Aunt June, and by the way, I don't want to forget the fact that Aunt June is deaf. She doesn't speak sign language or anything, but she'll read your lips. You'll be all the way across the room. And if you're talking stuff, she gonna know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? So I went and I sat down with my Aunt June, and I told her what I wanted to do, and I told her what I needed to do, what my passion was about film, and how it was actually lucrative and it was going to give me some money, you know, but I needed a car and I needed her help. And I knew that she was the one that was able to help me. And lo and behold, after my little terrible pitch, you know, I had little stuff printed out and everything, she said, okay. And she co-signed for my car. But she didn't do it in a way where it was hers, because she could have did that. But she did it in a way where it was going to build me credit, because she understood the value of that. I didn't fully, because the only thing I had on my credit at the time was all the student loans that I wasn't paying. So, you know, but she understood that that was going to be a good mark on my credit, because she wasn't going to let it default. But even though I had to take over the payments myself, just built responsibility and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to call this part of the story, The Struggle is Real. And at this point, I'm navigating life as a 23-year-old father, and with a part-time job, because remember, I left Home Depot, and I'm only working on the weekends at the radio station. And I'm trying to pursue a career in film. And on top of that, I'm in a failing relationship. And we want to add on top of that, we had zero money, and we didn't have any food unless it was coming from WIC. We were in collections, bills were piling up, eviction notices were on the door, utilities were getting cut off, and you gotta be doing real bad if they cut your water off. You know what I mean? And just when I think I'm at the ground floor, I'm touching the cement, it's cold down here. I think nothing could get worse than the bottom fell out. My relationship ended terribly. We got evicted. She moved away. And it seemed like all of my fears were becoming real. Because my biggest fear is the fear of failure. And there's a huge problem with that. But one of my biggest fears is a feeling of failure. And at that moment, that's when depression set in. And I knew that I had to do something at that point because I couldn't let everything just go downhill and not do anything. You have to continue to do something. So it's actually a decision that had to have been made, and that's what I did. And I'm sure it was one of those days where I was just sitting in my car. I know many people have done it. You get to where you're going, don't even know how you drove there, but you end up at your location. And I just sat in my car for probably like 2 hours or so, just trying to just think through life. And it was at that moment where I decided that I took the last $500 that I had, that I just did from a video gig, I just got that money, and I used it as a down payment for a place. And I borrowed some money from my brother, and that helped me get like a little U-Haul so we could take the rest of my stuff. And it was just the computer and like a camera and some stuff. But and I moved it into a space in Southwest Baltimore. And it was at this place, like when I first walked in, it looked haunted. It was, everything was crazy looking. You know, how people move into places and it just look, you know, nice drywall and whatever. Nah, the floors are all crazy looking. The walls needed paint. Paint was chipping, all that stuff. It was dirty and it was in the epicenter of the hood. You know, but with all that being said, I could still see potential in it. And this part right here is the untold story because most people know about our studio in Southwest Baltimore. But most people don't know for the first year of me being in there, I slept on the floor. So sleeping on the floor there, then I would go to a friend's house or family member's house to shower or get some food. And my brother would give me money for gas because I knew if I could at least get to my job, then that would get me to the next job. And then that would allow me to keep working. As long as I had gas in my car, everything could be, you know what I mean, whatever. Everything could be late, but I would still be able to get to set, and that way I could still build my career, still build these relationships, and still bring in a little bit of money to keep going. And if anybody knows anything about my studio, they know when it's hot, and when it's cold, it's cold. So imagine sleeping on the floor in there for a year. All I had was a blanket, my computer, and my camera, and that's all I felt like I needed. And around that time, I was working as a Miracle Vista, just trying to keep some money in. And I was at Coppin State University. And I met this little Jewish woman by the name of Judith Wilner, one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet in your life. And she hired me because she saw something in me. She hired me to make a documentary about this woman named Carrie Beth Cryer. She's a photographer who curated for Coppin State College at the time and UMBC. She was the first woman, you should look this up, she was the first woman to actually capture herself giving birth to her daughter. So she's legit. She did a whole site visit and everything. And she put a mirror up in the delivery room. It was like a parabola mirror, one of those security mirrors. And she must have like set her settings. I don't know if she used a light meter, I don't know. But that'd have been crazy, right? But why not? She's already there, just do it all. And she was literally pushing, and she was taking pictures of herself giving birth to her daughter, Jasmine. Crazy story. And during this time, I remember little Judith climbing up, because the elevator's broke in our building. People that know me know that happens sometimes. But the elevator's broke, and she climbed 5 flights of stairs. This is an elderly woman. And it's snowing outside, it's cold. And we get into my studio, and we're sitting there editing the piece about Carrie Beth Cryer. And we, hands tucked in pockets, and she only pull them out to just point at something at the screen, and we're editing and whatnot. And then we finished the piece, and then she paid me for that. She paid me about $3,000 for that. And this is where you can do the little Pursuit of Happiness gif where he's, you know what I mean, You know what I mean? Like that, one of those moments. That's what that was. Because that gave me my second wind. And I stretched that money. I stretched that money so so long. And I paid my rent at the studio. I paid my BGE. I didn't pay all my BGE, but I paid some of it because, you know, if you pay something, they're not gonna cut you off. As long as you pay something, it's a little tip, it's free. But I paid my prepaid internet. I don't know if anybody remember Clear. And drop a line in the chat if you remember Clear. I had that. It was the slowest internet alive. It was basically dial-up, you know, but it was a hotspot, and that's what I used. And most importantly, I got a membership at a gym where I can go take showers, because that definitely helped a lot as well. And the biggest thing for me was the fact that I was able to buy me a couch, y'all. I finally got a couch, so I got off the floor. You know, that was a huge thing. And little by little, with every project I did, I took a little bit of money from that and I used it to fix up the studio in pursuit of my dream to like create Good News Baltimore and create my company, 6 Point Pictures. And of course, you're gonna have bumps and bruises and trial and error and all kinds of different things that happen as an entrepreneur, and then you wanna multiply that by being an artist and feeling like you're not creative enough because you're not getting those opportunities to do the creative things that you really wanna do to allow you to explore yourself fully and truly as an artist. Those things happen. And at that moment, I thought things were just good and things were looking up, and that's when I got the wind knocked out of me. Because at that moment, that's when I realized that Aunt June was now in hospice. And I'm a Pisces, y'all, so I know everything is super emotional and always personal. But in this moment, I remember Aunt June being in the room, and she stretched out her bony little hand, her knuckles was all big, and you know, I mean, she still had some strength in it, but her little hand, she reached out for mine, and she grabbed my hand, and she asked me, like she always does, every time I see her, she would ask, you know, whether we had something to talk about or not. It doesn't even matter. She would always ask me, how's the business? Every time, without fail. And I would say, good. She said, you still have it? I say, yes. And then she said, then you're gonna be just fine then. That was my confirmation. So, when I think of resilience, I think of the amalgamation of the people who helped to shape me. I think about my history, and I think about my people. I think about the color of my skin. And when coming from only a few generations away from slavery, sleeping on hardwood floors to now owning my own home, and taking $500 and turning it into a multi-six-figure company, I think that resilience is reinvention of yourself and finding a way when there is no way, and creating balance, most importantly, and the fact that you never should underestimate the power of possibility. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, JaMar. Truly, truly special to hear about your journey and the relationships that you have with three really incredibly powerful women, and just how they have helped shape you to be who you are. So really, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's now time for Q&A. So if you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube, you can type your questions directly in the chat, and we should be able to see them here, and then I can, you know, technology, I can see them here on this iPad and then put them up on the screen. But also, speaking of technology, I think I'm having a hard time seeing Facebook comments. So Erlene, if you could repeat Facebook comments, that might help us in this journey. But to get Q&A started, the first thing I want to ask you, JaMar, is talking about this balance of being an entrepreneur and also an artist. It seems like a difficult, you know, dance to do. Do you have advice for any creatives that are maybe struggling a little bit with that balance?
There's so many different things I could say, but I think one of the main things that should be considered is prioritization. What does your to-do list look like? You know, you got to be a little bit more structured when it comes to being an artist. And I know a lot of artists, it's just free flowing and you just do whatever you want to do. But you have to have some type of structure to every day that allows you to protect the time that you have to create, you know? And that allows you to designate time where you can interact with other people, but you establish those times because that gives you boundaries. So that way you can say, look, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at night, I'm turning my phone on, do not disturb, and everybody knows that because that's when I get creative. Or, you know, whenever it works for you, but it's about balance, you know? Like I said before, I think you have to divide yourself, prioritize. It's almost like split personalities because you have to think in two different types of brains in order to do things in film. Like if I'm shooting, I can't just come back and edit always because I have to get into an editor's mind, you know? So if you're thinking of doing these things all at the same time, it might not be the best. It might not be the best way. At least that's what it was for me. I had to make sure that I wasn't trying to do too much because I had to-do list that was like 50 things long. And then at the end of the day, I was depleted and I felt like I wasn't successful because I didn't get through that entire list. So now my list is shorter, it's more specific, and I designate those times where I can be creative.
I love a list.
Gotta have a list.
So something that you talked about in your talk is that at one point, failure was your biggest fear. Is that still true? Tell us a little bit more about that.
I learned that you have to run towards fear because you have to embrace failure. Because the sooner you do, and this is nothing new, you heard a bunch of people say it before, I'm sure, and if you didn't, here it is. You know, you have to fail fast because the quicker you fall off your bike, the sooner you realize how to get back on and what to do right. Just brush your knee off, throw a little Band-Aid on and keep it moving, you know? So the problem was that I wasn't trying to fall. I was trying to just stay on so long that by the time I fell, I actually learned something, you know? So I wish that, that I was a little bit more fearless and I was okay with failing sooner so that way I could adjust. But, you know, sometimes you can adjust mid-flight, but sometimes you have to crash and burn in order for you to learn a lesson.
So kind of jumping on that question a little bit, or that train of thought, a question from Facebook we have is, when did you start believing in the power of possibility and to go for your dreams instead of holding on to the part-time jobs? You
know, I think that I always had a belief in the power of possibility, and it's actually in my signature in my email. And I think that it started to approach me, that idea of the power of possibility, when I had zero money, and I'm talking about when I started DJing in '99. It was originally my brother's turntables, and I'm like, can I get that? And he's like, no. And he ended up selling it to my cousin, and my cousin just sat there, and I ended up just doing whatever kids do to get some money, finding a couch, whatever ended up happening. And I ended up saving like $150 and bought it off my cousin. And that ended up back in the same room where I was practicing DJing and things like that. So it was like, if I could do that, then anything is possible, And this was when I had no money, didn't know how to get money or anything, So the power of possibility and just holding on to that belief allowed me to utilize it as a tool, so that way I could just feel powerful in any moment, And it started way back in the day. I don't think I have a very specific moment where I was like, aha, but it's always something that's been with me.
Yeah, for sure. So this question comes from YouTube, from Winston. The question is, what kinds of flavors are you trying to convey through your filmmaking?
Flavors? I don't even know how to. Right, Winston. Thanks. Through filmmaking, there's so many different genres that I watch and I follow and I love so much. But I think more than anything, the way that I started is going to continue to show itself through my work, which is contextualizing my environment and the people that's around me, showing people of color and in powerful positions and showing people of color, period, you know, and through beautiful cinematography and allowing them to be in those wonderful stories. Like I think one of the things I think about often is one of my favorite movies is, and I have millions of them, but The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. That's such a good movie. And I was like, where's the black version of this? Do we not have it like the adventures where we skateboarding down roads of Saskatchewan or whatever? You know, like that would be awesome. We want to see volcanoes explode and ride on planes on the outside. You know what I mean? So just stuff like that. You know, I'm not tied to one genre. I love zombie movies, but I also love love stories and like Pursuit of Happiness and all kinds of different stuff. You know, I love stuff like that. So I'm kind of all over the board, you know, but only time will tell where the industry takes me. Winston.
So our next question also comes from YouTube. It's from April. She says, I think a big part of resilience is self-care. What do you do to care for yourself and preserve the ability to be resilient?
You know, I struggle with that all the time. And I feel like one of my homies, Jess Solomon, is one of those people that help check me on that. Like, what you doing right now? You drinking water? What's up with you? You know? And that's super important. But the thing is, man, I find self-care in doing my work, but it's in a specific way. You know, when it's all kinds of producers and all these people on like 100 people on the Zoom call saying, I think we should move the curtain 2 inches that way, and 6 other people talking about 4 inches the other way. You know what I mean? Those kinds of productions don't necessarily feed my soul, but when I'm able to do things with my team and in a relaxed environment and we're just creating, that is self-care. That my self-care is film. But I also like to binge watch a whole bunch of movies. I'll take pictures. I love to explore different film stocks from my medium format cameras. You know, different things like that. But it's always related to film. I might watch there's a lot of watching involved. I might watch tutorials and all kinds of things related to film. And I got this in my bookmark that I need to go back and watch, the Zack Snyder Army of the Dead piece about the lenses that they use and whatnot. Like those kind of things I do for me time. You know, I don't need a tub and candles and stuff like that. I need a conversation about some new lenses, you know, and all that stuff, you know. So I always try to engage in that. I could do that in the tub. I might try to figure that out. Man.
And shout out to Jess. She was a former Creative Mornings speaker.
Yes, she was. She killed it.
Our last in-person event actually was Jess in February of 2020. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. All right, our next question coming from Facebook. Fail fast is trendy with Silicon Valley right now, but there used to be a shame with entrepreneurial failure. Sometimes when you fail, you also are letting other people down. So how do you balance the needs to be fearless and do over with those who might be impacted by your failure?
That's a lot, man. Who said that?
I can't tell who said it because we're having some issues with Facebook, but it's coming from Facebook.
Nah, man. But I think if I understand the question, the thing that I would do, because I'm sure there's no one way to get to the end result, I believe. But the thing that I would do is to own it. I think failing fast is a part of the ownership, and it's the line in the movie Departed. Heavy lies the crown, you know, like that whole thing. You have to, if you're going to be in a leadership position, you have to own the fact that failure is a possibility, and you have to, you owe it to the people that's working with you to communicate that. So you have to say, this is what we're up against, team. I need you to give me your all. I'm going to do everything I need to do, and lead by example, you know. And if failure decides to completely take over, then that's something that everybody is aware of, and then they're okay with that, you know. But I think that you shouldn't hide those things, because if it's a possibility, everybody knows it already. So it's just that admitting it and owning it, I think, is a part of the fail fast. Because you have, I mean, even in what is it, economics or whatever, like probability and whatnot, they have to factor in the possibility of failure. You know, people that's going to the moon, you gotta factor in that into all the math and everything that you're doing. So it's no different with entrepreneurship. And I think that it is a shame that comes in that, or with that rather, but it's not something that we should be ashamed of, you know, especially at this point. It's just too much, it's too much to do. And if you spend more time just worrying about it, then you spend less time actually getting to the end result, you know?
I love it. That question came from Arlene, who's our volunteer in Facebook. So she's part of us. But I can follow up her more challenging question with a more softball question.
No, it's all good. Throw them at me, Arlene.
You're referencing that, like, that you're watching a lot of stuff, and that's part of the process for sure, and that you sometimes are binge watching shows. What are you watching right now, or what have you recently watched or consumed?
Man, oh man, I just started Underground Railroad last night, and the cinematography in there is mind-blowing. And I'm just like, dang, Amazon got this, you know? Like, because you don't see stuff like that all the time on Amazon. Amazon got some gems, but that is so gorgeous, and the story's shaping out really nice, and nobody spoil it in the chat. Nobody spoil it. I'm only on episode 1, so, you know, I'm gonna go back and watch some more, but that's definitely one that I'm watching right now. So if you got Amazon, which I'm sure everybody in the world does, you know, you should go check that out.
Great.
And who was that? Who was that again? Barry Jenkins? Barry Jenkins, yes. Thank you. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, he also did that film in Miami that I'm forgetting the name of right now.
One Night?
Moonlight, yeah.
Oh, you said Moonlight?
Moonlight.
Moonlight, okay.
Moonlight,
I thought
yeah.
you said the One Night in
So-
Miami.
So beautiful, so beautiful.
Yeah, gorgeous cinematography, gorgeous storyline, everything.
So then,
I thought y'all said Moon Knight. the character. Anyway. Somebody know what I'm talking about, Moon Knight. They follow comic books. I was like, he ain't do Moon Knight.
so if I may be so bold to channel Aunt June a little bit, how's the business going?
It's going good. It's going good. Yeah, it's definitely going good. You know, the entire team is flourishing, and we are getting jobs from different places, and you know, it's going really well. So shout out to Aunt June for that. You know, shout out to my parents too. You know, for not being too crazy about it. You know what I mean? That's a whole nother conversation, but stick to your dreams, everybody. Stick to your dreams. Who cares if the railroad is hiring, okay? Benefits will come, all right? Resilience, remain resilient.
So of course, we're going to kind of wrap up the Q&A. I just want to see if anybody has any questions in the room, because we have our skeleton crew here. And I heard last time that there were questions in the room, and I just didn't hear them.
You asked my question.
Yeah, what's your question?
No, you asked it.
Oh, I already asked your question. All right. All right, everybody's, we got, people are just saying stick to your dreams in the chat, and shout out to Aunt June. So again, thank you so much, JaMar, for all your gems of wisdom, for being here this morning, for making this all look really great. I don't know, we'll probably post stuff on our gram later of showing this setup, because it's a little more high tech than what it usually is. Just a touch. But I don't know if we're ready for this, because we didn't tell you about it, Lex, but we usually invite our friends at home to do a selfie with you. So if we could do a tight on JaMar for people to go ahead and pick up their laptops or whatever they're doing and just have their selfie moment. Henley, if you can.
Which one?
If you,
Which one I'm looking at?
I don't know
where to look.
I don't know. All right.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I need those glasses, y'all.
I was waiting for you. You good. Does he put the arm out?
What do I do? Yeah, where are they virtually?
It's wherever you want them to be.
He's in it.
I'm in it. Beautiful.
Beautiful. So yes, Thank you again.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure. I want you all to please save the date for next month's talk. It's going to be on Friday, June 25th, where we'll be welcoming Joanne Emwiser to our virtual stage to speak on the theme of matriarchy. And again, we'd love to see what this looks like on your end. So please post on social media, tag us, Baltimore_CM. And let's close it out as we've been closing it out, even though Mario thinks it's hokey. I'm into it. We're going to take a couple deep breaths together, just kind of, ground us here. So I want you all to please join me, taking a deep breath in and out and in and out. We'll do it one more time. In and out. Thank you again for joining us this morning. Go get vaxxed, please. We'd love to see you in person soon.
Yes.
Have a great morning.
Yes.
I messed up the breathing.